Hello and welcome to our program. My name is Ikpe and this is Violence Free World. We're continuing our conversation with Chief Femi, Fani, Kayode, very interesting personality. Chief, you're welcome to our program again.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll come right back into the conversation, but after this time. My name is Ikpe. Don't go anywhere. The raging spate of violence in Nigeria has continued to defy all forms of approach at resolving it. Virtually all parts of Nigeria face this challenge, which ranges from banditry in the northwest, kidnapping on our highways, the IPOB menace in the southeast, killer headsmen in the southwest and the middle belt, to insurgency in the northeast. Particularly, the new trend of hostage taking for huge ransom, mostly borne by the government, has become rather too often and smacks of complicity from very high quarters.
We also have situation where children are kidnapped at different level and at different intervals, and what happened at the end of the day is that we take money to go and beg them to release our children to us. So if you are now on a negotiation table, who determines the pace of where the pendulum swings to? Now if you look at all this, the question is, who is having upper hand as at now? Can we conveniently, boldly, truthfully say that our security is having an upper hand?
Public outcry against this trend has dominated national discourse, with some sectors resorting to self-help by way of vigilante groups, like in the case of Amotekun in the southwest and JTF in the north, a measure that is more or less official by now. The attendant fear and anxiety have brought about a rhetoric of fury as people trade accusations and counter-accusation as to who is responsible for the dastardly acts.
We have avalanche of laws in this country that criminalizes terrorism. We have avalanche of laws in this country that criminalizes kidnapping, abduction, and the like. Now, all these laws have not been put to place against any one of these people. To the best of my knowledge, look at the number of those that were arrested, and after arrest, they will be handed over to their governors as repentant terrorists. This is the only country in the whole world that have had that people will kill villagers, turn children to orphan overnight, sack a whole village, destroy properties that are worth millions of naira, destroy the economy of a state, and at the end of the day, the state itself, the security agencies will hand them over to their governors, and they will be received with high level of puppetry and then joy and all those stuff like that.
Ethnic and religious profiling have regrettably featured too prominently in the blame game, and it is only serving to exacerbate the already bad situation.
Yes. I feel terrible when Nigerians, the average Nigerian, sees crime and criminality within a narrow prison of tribe or religion. It's in vogue now world over that Muslims are really the culprits. Xenophobia. Muslims are seen as terrorists because terrorism is a multi-billion-dollar industry all over. And Muslims, unfortunately, have where it takes because mainly the oil wells are with the Muslim countries. It's all about that.
Dialogue, it is reckoned, holds a potential to ultimately resolve the spate of violence and consolidate our effort at national integration. But just how can we aggregate our opinions to make the dialogue measure work as we seek a violence-free Nigeria. Now it's time to go straight and continue the conversation. Now, when we're talking about dialogue, generally, dialogue you've held behind closed doors, dialogues you've had in even the public spaces. I remember you and I were on the same stage during GYB's 46th birthday. That was at Lokoja, your friend. I'm referring to Governor Yahya Bello. Now, situate all of these things that you've been doing on the side and what you came there to do on that particular day. Yeah, I agree you came to felicitate with your friend, support him. But now, let's situate what you've done. You were talking to me about the last episode on your relationship with Sunday Igboho, and then there's even Nnamdi Kanu on this other sides too, all of your friends, and then things are going on, and there's a sudden twist about you. You are a friend of the government presently, and they are enemies of this government, so to speak, supposedly. Please speak to this issue.
First of all, I don't see it in terms of enemies and friends. I really don't. I see it in terms of we agree on issues, we disagree on issues. It doesn't make you my enemy. And because we agree doesn't make you my friend. There are some people like Yaya who is my friend, and a number of others, any day, any time. Sunday is my friend and will always be my friend, even if we disagree on a lot of issues. The same with Nnamdi Kanu and so on and so forth. I never, ever turn my back on somebody that I've once called a friend. We may disagree on issues, we may not take the same approach on issues, but I never ever renounce a friendship. Abba Kyari was chief of staff in this government for many years. He'd been my friend for 40 years. We sat down regularly once a month in the middle of the night discussing government policy, and I disagreed with virtually everything they were doing. But we were friends. It was after he died that I let the whole world know that this man had been my friend for almost 40 years. Brother, not even friend. And I have no enemies. So that's the first thing. I don't have enemies, particularly in the political realm, because I know how politics works, okay? But before I go into this, if you will allow me to just go back to something. I spoke to you about two reasons why we took the course that we took recently. I told you about the issue of the contributions of the governor of Kogi State in terms of bringing peace to the country, and I was impressed with the fact that he could do that. I was impressed with the fact that President Buhari could allow me to participate in that because he got permission from the president before calling me in. And I was delighted with the fact that when we finished that great work, we all went to the villa, we had audience with the chief of staff, he thanked us for the work that we had done. As surprised as he was that we could pull it off, and it was done. That is a credit to the president, that is a credit to the governor of Kogi State, that is a credit to the system that is operating today. We can achieve peace by dialogue and understanding and bringing everybody on board. Now, there was another issue. There are actually 6, but I will only talk about 2 publicly. There was another major issue which made me realize that, listen, it does work when you sit down and you dialogue and you talk, particularly behind closed doors. What happened in Zamfara State? They've shut down the whole state. They're killing bandits, on a daily basis in their hundreds, and people are being freed by these kidnappers. Why? Because they listened and they allowed people to make contributions to that decision, and Matawali did the right and proper thing and decided that terrorism must be fought. These people must be fought. He's doing the right thing. And that is reflecting everywhere in the Northwest today. For the first time, in years, in fact, for the first time ever, a governor like Masari can get a governor of Katsina and say that the people that are committing these crimes are Fulanis from outside Nigeria and people that share the same faith as him. Would you have believed he'd say that 3-4 months ago? Certainly not. And that is progress, because he's identified the enemy as foreigners, he's not shying away from who and what they are, and they're doing something about it. You talk about the governor of Kebbi State, for example, another one. He has said these people are not bandits, they are terrorists, and we should call them terrorists. Would you have believed that would happen 3 or 4 months ago? Of course you wouldn't have believed it. You say it wouldn't happen, but it has happened. Would you have believed that Matawali would take the steps that he took in Zamfara State, fighting these terrorists a few months ago? You wouldn't have believed that. And it's going out throughout the whole of the Northwest. What you see is a concerted effort by all the governors to fight the terrorists head on, to kill them and send them back to wherever they came from. And that is a very positive thing. Now, they could not have done that had it not been for the massive support and encouragement, logistically and in terms of security forces, that President Buhari has given to them. So the argument that he's the one behind all this insurgency and so on and so forth, he's the one behind this, which we've all put in the past, has been killed by this initiative. It has been defeated by this initiative. I know about it. I know what they're doing, and I know the efforts they're making. And that had a huge impact on me in terms of retracing myself and say, listen, I'm prepared to work with anybody that is ready to kill terrorists, that's ready to fight them and identify them for what they are. That is a very major issue for me, and they've done well in that respect. And it's only a question of time before this is translated to other parts of the country as well. If you look at what's happening in the Southwest now, you'll find that the activities of the terrorists is far less than it was a number of months and years ago, and so on and so forth everywhere. The new challenge that we're now facing, which is an equally terrible challenge, is the challenge of insurgency in the southeast of the country, which I warned about a long time ago, that we needed to be very careful and sensitive to the situation there. I call it insurgency. I call it complete rebellion, where people will go and target police stations and kill members of the security forces and kill, ordinary people, innocent people in the streets, and target them. They're not stealing anything. They're not taking anything. They're just killing people. And I think that is absolutely reprehensible, and I condemn it. And that is the greatest challenge we're facing today, which I sincerely hope, again, we can come together, not just through violence, but also through dialogue and understanding, and ensure that it doesn't continue. The Southwest, the same thing would have happened had it not been for the efforts of some of us with Sunday Igboho and so on and so forth, who renounced that, completely renounced it, as far as I'm aware. And he did it publicly and privately to me. And that I commend him for. Whatever issues he's having with the president and the government today, that's between them. And I sincerely hope it's resolved. But I can tell you that it would have been much worse in the Southwest had it not been for the sense of restraint he showed at that time when we worked together. Okay, so that's what it is. So these things all coming together, are parts of what made me realize that, listen, it is better to work with these people to ensure we get a good result. We're getting a good result in the Northwest today. We're getting a good result. Whatever we touch seems to work. And I'm prepared to do that for the sake of Nigeria, rather than tread a path which will lead to division and possibly civil war.
Okay, Chief, we're going to come back and talk about your relationship with Muhammadu Buhari, the way you see him now, as well as many other stalwarts that when we return from this break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
All right, this is Violence Free World. We'll be right back after this time out. Chief, now let's go back to this issue of your relationship with Muhammadu Buhari. Now that you see him differently, would you be willing to work with him to move Nigeria forward?
When it comes to the issue of President Muhammadu Buhari, it was never anything personal. We had differences, or rather I had differences with him on a number of issues before 2015, during the 2015 election, and between that time and quite up until quite recently. A number of policy issues, policy differences, and the perception that I had was he was fueling certain things which I believe were inimical to the unity of my country, Nigeria. I have no other country. And therefore, I stood my ground and I spoke truth to power, courageously, unlike most people. Okay? When it became clear to me that it wasn't quite like that, it was a far more complicated issue. And two things happened, because this is a very profound question you've asked me. Give me a little time to answer it. Two things will happen. A number of things happen, but I'll focus on two. The first thing that happened, which impressed me immensely, was the fact that many of the APC governors that I started interacting with were very accommodating to me. They opened their doors. We spoke from the heart to one another. I told them my views, my challenges in terms of what's going on in the country, why I oppose the government, and so on and so forth. And they came across with a different perspective. And instead of vilifying and closing doors, he said, look, let's talk. Let's find a way in which we can accommodate one another and perhaps even work together. That's number one. That couldn't have happened without President Buhari giving the go-ahead. That's where it all started. And I thought that was a pretty smart move on his part. And I continued to was smart on my part as well. And that's where all this started. Now, two major issues took place, which really made me now change my mind about where I would stand. The first one was this. We had a situation whereby this country almost came to a civil war, would have had a civil war, or the beginning of a civil war, a few months ago, 6 months ago or thereabouts. A lot of people don't know about this. And a lot of people don't appreciate it because they don't know the facts. Well, let me share some of those facts with you right now. And I stand to be corrected. I'm saying this on national television. Okay. I got a call in the middle of the night from the governor of Kogi State. By that time, we had been interacting. And he asked me to join him, that we had a bit of a situation and he wanted me to assist. And I gladly went there. This was at the time of the food embargo. And he explained certain things to me privately that, look, we have a major crisis. The president had given 3 days to resolve the crisis. The food embargo was on, and it would not be lifted until this, unless we negotiate and get them to stop the food embargo. And that he wanted me to be part of that process. But more importantly, the reason he wanted me there was because elements within the northern part of the country had threatened that they were going to kill Southerners, and the butchering, the killing would start, in a matter of days if we didn't do something about it and stop it and talk to the relevant players. Where do I come in? I came in because they wanted me to talk to Sunday Igboho to give a guarantee that if the Northerners came back down south, they started supplying food once again, because at that time Northerners were leaving the southwest in drones. Okay, if they came back south and they lifted the food embargo, would there be a guarantee for their safety in the south? And that they wanted me to prevail on this young man because they knew how close and know how close I am to him, and that if that could happen, then perhaps we could now stop this threat of carnage and killing and reprisals. Their argument was that their own people from the north had been killed during the Lekki riots, and also they had been killed during the killings in Shasha in Ibadan. So they wanted to do reprisal killings. And he said something which touched my heart. He said that the federal government would fight to ensure that this was not allowed, and that lives were protected in the north. Southern lives were protected, but they would take the full might of the federal government to ensure that. So we must sort this problem out in an amicable way and resolve it. We went back into the room, and then I made the call. I put it on speakerphone. I called Sunday, and I told him, you're on speakerphone. Governor of Kogi State is here with a number of other people. This is the dilemma that I have, that I want you to give a guarantee here and now that if the food embargo is lifted and the Northerners come back to the south, particularly to the southwest, that you guarantee their safety. And then Sunday said, is that what you want, sir? I said, yes. He said, okay, I'm guaranteeing it. Not only am I guaranteeing it, I will meet them at the border when they come in. I think he said from Kogi State, at Ondo or something like that. And I'll escort them down, and we will ensure that they are well protected. He said that. He spoke to the governor directly. He spoke to all the other players, about four people that were members of the unions. He spoke to them as well, and that is how the issue of the food embargo, that's how we began the process of negotiating to ensure that food embargo was lifted, and it was successful. But more importantly is this: the threats that were being made against Southerners in the north. From the minute he gave that guarantee, those threats were now lifted. And the gentlemen that were behind that, some of whom had been detained, I might add, came into the room afterwards and said, no more threats, no more attacks on Southerners, everything is put on hold, because Sunday Igboho had given his word, and because I sat down and we had negotiated this thing. And we made a few calls to a few Southwestern governors there and then, and told them what we had done, and that is how we achieved peace. And it occurred to me.
You did quietly?
We did it quietly, we did it behind closed doors. We didn't make noise about it. But what we did do is that, the next 3-4 days, it was every day, and I have to commend the governor of Kogi State for this. That's why I want immense respect for him. I saw what he was doing, and we were there together. Every day for the next 3 or 4 days, he negotiated on behalf of the federal government with these people. And it was a very tough negotiation. A number of issues rose up. which they raised. And everybody was reasonable. Everybody sat around the table, and at the end of it all, we all agreed. And when we had the final press conference here in Abuja, the Northern Unions, all the things that I've just told you, they said it. If people would only listen, that they did this embargo to ensure that there wasn't carnage in the North, as a way of appeasing those that wanted to start killing Southerners in the North, and that all of that had stopped. They made a commitment, nothing like that would happen. And that is how we ensure we had peace. If the carnage had started and they started killing Southerners in the North, of course there would have been reprisals in the South, and all hell would have broken loose.
Now 2023 approaches, and we're trying to see what we can do differently here. There was a youth revolt some time back here, aka NSAS, and the talk then was, it's time for a generational shift, paradigm shift. Like we're going more youthful. We're going the way of the youth. Also, inclusiveness. And a lot of governors came around, and suddenly there's been quiet. And even the young people themselves are not seeing much action as far as trying to take our destiny into our hands is concerned. What lesson do you think that thing brought forth? And what can we use that kind of a possibility to do?
It's entirely up to the people of this country how this matter is managed. If you want to continue to talk about those that have been in this game for 30, 40 years to continue to lead you, then fine. But what's happening now is that you do have a new group of people emerging, epitomized by people like Governor Yaya Bello and so on and so forth, who are young, strong, courageous, and dynamic, and are ready to do the right thing. And if you're talking about generational shift, for goodness sake, that's the most obvious one. You understand, in terms of generation, in terms of perception, in terms of the way things are done in this country, in terms of building bridges, welcoming anybody. I mean, if he can be friends with me, if we can be friends and understand one another, because we're both very tough. And, they call him the White Lion, they call me the Lion of Aso Drive. We're very tough.
Two lions.
and we understand each other. We understand each other very, very well. And I see something in him that's very different to most people. I mean, there's a whole cadre of governors that are emerging now from across the country. That a handful. I know most of them. I know 90% of the governors in this country very, very well. But there's a small group emerging in this country now that are really very, very exceptional. And it's across party lines, I have to tell you. If you talk about Zulum in Borno State, you talk about Matawale in Zamfara State, you talk about the governor of Plateau State, Lalong, sorry. You talk about the governor of Plateau State, Lalong. You talk about Nasarawa governor, Engineer Sule, good friend of mine, and a number of others. And of course, my dear friend in the southeast, the governor of Enugu State, even Bala in Bauchi,
yes.
And then of course Ayade in Cross Rivers, and a number of others. There are quite a few of them, and I must not forget to mention the governor of Yobe State, who is an extraordinary man. And I don't believe the party, the APC, could have attracted as many people had it not been for him. These are people that have a very different mindset to many from the past. I've been in this game for almost 30 years now, okay, actively. And I'm telling you, these are a different breed. And Yaya goes a step further because he is dynamic and strong. And I believe we need that strength to be translated all over the country. We need that strength to be able to move this country forward. And he's courageous enough to speak to anybody that is ready to ensure peace and unity in this country, even if he may not share your views in terms of how to achieve it. I am like that. I believe that's the way forward. He believes that's the way forward. And there are many others that share our view, which is why we all get on so well. We may not agree on everything, but we agree on most things. And I'm delighted to be able to say that. And most importantly is the fact that if President Buhari can have confidence in men like that, and work with men like that, that says a lot for him as well. That he's not the isolated figure that many of us thought he was in the past. And I've seen that. And that, for me, is one of the reasons why I made the decision that I have made. So we're all going to be together. We're all going to work together. And we're all going to ensure that this country remains one, but that perhaps equity and justice is infused in our country to ensure that everybody feels part and parcel of Nigeria. That is the challenge of today, and not slugging each other, throwing bricks at one another, insulting one another.
Well, Chief, I think that's a very good point to leave it. I must say at this point that I share your optimism. I'm excited at it. I feel most hopeful, and we believe we'll come back to you very soon. Well, I've been speaking with Chief Femi Fani Kayode, former Minister of Aviation and now a chieftain of the All Progressive Congress. Chief, once again, thank you very much for obliging us.
Thank you very much.
Same time next week promises more if you endeavor to be here. Until then, please remember to remain on the road to a violence-free Nigeria. My name is Callys Ikpe. Thank you for watching. God bless.
No more to